Thank you. You might not know Cooper Parry, we're East Midlands based. I joined Cooper Parry, my first time in the financial services industry in 2008, September 2008, and was considered not a good omen for positivity in the financial services industry at the time, as Cooper Parry just about started quite a significant restructuring project. Things up to then with Cooper Parry had all been about growth, all been about success. So engagement had gone from very high to very, very low, very suddenly. And people that worked at Cooper Parry felt quite personally let down because these things were happening, even though they were outside of the firm's control to some extent. So I was tasked with looking at how we supported stress in the firm, how we got back some commitment, belief and engagement from the people that worked with us. I don't like the word stress. I know that's been some debate today and probably will carry on being. But I do feel that it's a very wide-ranging thing, it's a very personal thing, and it's very easy, as I think Hilary said earlier, for people to put a stress label on something. So I was tasked with, as I say, looking after the stress levels because we were going to be asking more from the people that worked for us, and there were less people that worked for us at that time. And I wanted to do something that didn't focus on stress as such, but did tackle things. One of the things I wanted to do, because when I looked at did some early feedback and just asked some questions of people, was that in financial services, apparently it's a bit fluffy. We don't do that. It's a bit of a macho culture. And whilst we didn't have an issue with absenteeism, I certainly recognise an issue with presenteeism, and that's come up before. It's something that I'm particularly against, but we've still got a bit of that going on, and I think there's a bit of fear about heading back into recession. So what I wanted to do was say, okay, we're not doing something to you, we're not telling you what to do. I don't want an initiative. I want to give you some tools to be aware of and manage your own well-being better, and you and your families, because obviously when we go through difficult economic periods, it affects everybody, friends and family, and when the headlines are bad in the newspapers and on the television, it's hard to get away from. So one of the first things I did was look at a self-service portal where people could go, access a range of information, and whenever they wanted, and they could look at this at home as well, and look at this with their families. We had some interesting comments. At the start, definitely this came across to people where they took the mickey a bit out of it. There was a few people that liked it. There was a bit of mickey taking. Desk sizes were my particular favourite, watching a group of office-bound people do silly movements with their heads, but actually they all started laughing about it, and then they all started doing it, and little by little these things caught on. As we got into Christmas chaos, we put some tips in about just dealing with the madness that tends to be the Christmas period for everybody. We introduced a new employee assistance programme, which was much more self-service based and much more easily accessible for people. We also had a blog which really took off, initially for a bit of mickey taking, but then we started to get some ideas and some questions, and as I say, slowly but surely, we really saw that this was just starting to take hold with people. Now, that might look a bit funny, but there's a reason behind why my slides are just bright and colourful, and that's because Cooper Parry used to be traditional tax and accountancy practice, known as being fairly grey and boring. And we try to differentiate ourselves by having very strong, very simple branding, but using lots of colour. And the biggest, cheapest, because just to go back, when I was tasked with this challenge, I wasn't given any more resources. In fact, my team was being reduced, and I certainly wasn't given a budget. And it was made very clear that if I needed any money for this project, I was going to have to really show a strong case for why we should be spending money. The biggest and the cheapest, in fact, almost zero cost, part of the wellbeing programme was our pedometer challenge. This was a team challenge which accidentally had a phenomenally positive effect on engagement as well as spreading the wellbeing word. This was where teams of 5 were given a pedometer, which we got free, and a bottle of water, which was donated. Everybody was given a pack. Teams of 5, every week we would count the steps, see which team was in the lead. We had an initial hope that somebody would make it to kind of south of France. They ended up somewhere in Italy. We had a Google map that showed progress, and it really, really caught the imagination of our firm. Just an example of how something very simple can work. We've just done our second one. During the second one, we had a team of our partners go off to, I think on the hottest day of the year, go off to do a walk in the Peak District. A couple of them turning up, as you'd expect, well-dressed with plenty of water, and the odd one in a pair of shoes with half a litre of water in their hand. But an interesting day and real example of why leadership and engagement from the top is really, really important. I think Dame Carol said earlier that just giving fruit, just putting fruit out there isn't the way to do it. Our experience of fruit was that we decided at the beginning, I got some money to provide fruit to all the offices. And this was to be seasonal, and we were to put posters up about why it was good for you. And we did this for a month, and then my boss said, yeah, that worked okay, but we're not going to provide any more money for this. And there was uproar, absolute uproar. People, our suggestion scheme, where's the fruit gone, what's happened? Well, we really liked the fruit. In fact, our Leicester-based office decided to organise a kitty, and they introduced their own fruit. So we quickly put that back on, and we, as I say, started to see that these sorts of things were making a difference to people. People were seeking out things at this point. They were using the internet more. They were giving us ideas of things they'd like to do. These are just some examples of the branding, and this is particular to us. As I say, branding's really important. And what we have these quarterly themed events. The teapot being winter warmer, this bucket and spade being summer wellness, for example. So we have a themed quarterly event, and that incorporates a different intranet look, different buttons on the intranet portal, different e-learning things, different advice going around, different posters up. But what we've used is an image for each one. So we have loads of posters up all the time. In the summer wellness, it'll be about being careful in the sun, drinking enough water, what's seasonal and good for you at the moment to eat. And it's been very, very powerful with all the posters to have a continual image. People now recognise it and use the term well-being as though it's something normal. And these are just an example of some of the things that we've done. The pedometer challenge I've mentioned. ICON is a Derbyshire-based organisation which is about supporting talented athletes, people who are coming forward for 2012. And it's an example of how we've now moved from just well-being to being about a bit more of a community involvement, something that we always had, but something that as people are more engaged, we're getting involved in more stuff. The benefits and impact for us have been absolutely fantastic. We talk about absenteeism and presenteeism a lot when we come to well-being. We didn't have a massive problem, as I say, with absenteeism, but in the first 18 months we have reduced the cost by £143,000, which for a company of 200 people is fairly significant. We're monitoring the presenteeism thing. It's quite difficult to do because there are more of us than there were, but we're still working hard to support the clients that we do. But that is something now that people are more aware of and understand. We have a much better absence management process, something that people get, managers understand the impact and the benefit of, and really helps to spot things early. So where we did have a bit of an issue was those odd days people would take, and we've really seen a drop in that. And the average sick days per employee is now 2.1. We've got gold investor in people status, something we're really, really proud of, and championship status as well. We were named the leading business advisor in the Family Business Awards last year and given 2 stars and a particular good tick for well-being in the Sunday Times Best Companies list. The benefits have been particularly enormous for us because last year was Cooper Parry's most successful financial year ever, and something that we're on target to beat again this year. I'd like to take full credit for that, but realise that I can't. But what we do have now is a group of partners and a fantastic bunch of people at Cooper Parry that get well-being. They refer to well-being. In fact, we're under pressure now with them chasing us of, what are we doing next? What's happening next? Can we do this? Can we do that? And we're about to start, having just finished the second pedometer challenge, we're about to start our Winter Wee competition, which is about promoting activity, during the, months when you don't really feel like it. You'd rather sit under a blanket and watch TV. So it's the simple things. One of the biggest impacts for us is that we were the example of excellence at the Business in the Community Awards this year for our Work Well programme. Something we were up against some seriously big companies, and we're phenomenally proud of that. But what we believe it says is that well-being doesn't have to be costly, because we've spent about £7,500 in 2 years. It doesn't have to be difficult, and it can have a phenomenally positive effect on engagement. So some very simple things. There really is nothing more to it than that. A lot of me berating people and getting people involved at the top, because there was, as I say, there was a bit of cynicism there at the start. But overturning that has been something I'm proud of, and you can really see the benefits across our workforce. So thanks for listening to me and our examples.
Thank you very much.